Okay, there we go. So well, we're almost into week 4, aren't we? So we're going to talk about reintroduction because I know everybody flips out at this point. It's just 100% a flip out because typically by now you're feeling pretty good and you're thinking things like, well, let me just keep this going and I want to keep going with this. I want to keep feeling like this. And you 100% can continue to feel like this, but we really don't recommend that you do Whole30 for the rest of your life. And the reason is because it's very restrictive. Um, could you do it for another 30 days? Probably. Could you do it for another, 30 days beyond that? Probably you could, but at some point you're just going to face plant into something. And then you don't get the reintroduction, the benefits of the reintroduction. So I like to, excuse the expression, dumb it down because everybody gets all scared about reintroduction. And all it is another, think of it this way, another 2 weeks of Whole30. So if you were thinking you wanted to do a Whole60, then here you go. Now you're really doing a Whole35. 45, excuse me. So you're still going to have every day, you're going to have your protein, you're going to have your veggies, you're going to have your fat and your plated fat. So that is every meal for the next, well, this week will be a Whole30 elimination still. But when we start your reintroduction, you're still going to have those meals 3 times a day. All you're going to do is add a side item one day. So your reintroduction day will be one day where you add side items, and then you'll have 2 days of just Whole30, clean Whole30 eating. And then you'll reintroduce another thing, and that will be side items. So we've got information coming for you next week, but let's just break this down. So alcohol. If you're going to reintroduce alcohol, and you don't need to reintroduce alcohol, so if you want, on the evening of day 30 or on day 31, you can reintroduce alcohol. I would not suggest having alcohol at every meal. If you're not going to do well with alcohol, 1 glass of wine will tell you, or if you want to have 2 glasses of wine, will inform you on how alcohol does. I will reiterate this because our last group or group before that, somebody had beer, and you do not want to have beer because beer has gluten in it. So it needs to be non-gluten alcohol. So wine, spirits, and here's the thing. If you are going to have vodka, you're going to need to not have it with like cranberry juice or something like that, because then you won't be able to tell if it's the sugar from the cranberry juice or if it's the vodka that's messing you up. So if you're going to have a cocktail, make it a mocktail with maybe mineral water, like maybe some grapefruit LaCroix or something like that. So if you do alcohol, then we're going to personalize it for everybody. So we'll be talking to you next week about what do you want to reintroduce and what do you know already that maybe you don't want to introduce. So alcohol is the big one. People are either on or they're off. So day 31 will be your alcohol reintroduction. Now, I suggest just kind of staying with the program. So day 31, if you decide you're not going to do alcohol, you can go right into legumes. Or if you want to wait the other extra 3 days, you can go into legumes. Typically, day 31, people are ready to get on with it. So that is completely up to you. But the legume reintroduction, so let's say, for instance, okay, legumes. So in the morning, you decide you are going to have, let's see, maybe an omelet, and you have a little side of black beans or refried beans. Okay, that would be, and remember, we're doing a little bit at each meal so that we're not doing a whole lot at one meal, because we want to see if those ingredients mess with your stomach and your gut and whatnot. But we don't want to, if we said, okay, you got to eat 2 cups of beans, that's going to mess with everybody's stomach. So we don't want to do that. So you just want to have probably like a cup, maybe not even a cup, but at least a half a cup of beans or something with that. So lunch, you decide you're going to have, maybe you make, maybe you make, I'm trying to think. I have all these. Hang on, let me get my
I,
cheat sheet out.
I think it was miso soup or something, or
Was
soy.
it me? So yeah, hang on, let me just grab this real quick. I'll do it on my phone so I don't have to. Ah, where'd you go? There we are. Um, I know I have this stuff scheduled. Is it going to show me? It probably is not going to show me. Oh, well. Anyway, all right. So miso soup is a good example. So miso is a legume. Thank you for that. Thank you for saving me. So that would be something. For dinner, maybe you have a Thai inspired dish and you're going to have peanut sauce on that. So maybe you're going to use peanut butter. So that day, that one single day, let's just call it day 31 or day 33, you are going to have 3 different types of legumes. Now, for the whole entire reintroduction, if you hate black beans, don't reintroduce black beans because likely you're not going to eat them. Look at the list of legumes because we give you that, and take a look at what you might want to do, and you need to kind of do that this week because you need to go grocery shopping, because obviously you probably don't have these items on hand anymore, so you're going to need to go grocery shopping. So what we want you to do this week, because week 4 is boring and doldrums and whatnot, so it's a great time to plan for reintroduction. So decide what 3 legumes you're going to have and work on those. Now, day 32 or day 33 or 34, you might feel any number of things. And anytime you feel something that you think might be related to the legumes or whatever we're reintroducing, let us know. Because it could be a headache, it could be a stomach ache, it could be a rush, it could be dizziness, it could be any number of things. You could also just be dehydrated. So we need to take a look and see what these symptoms are, if you have any. And if we find something, so like you say, I didn't feel good after the legume day. All right, let's write it down, write down everything about it. And when you're done with your reintroduction, we're going to test it again and see if you have the same type of response. And then that way you'll know for sure legumes are not for me. Okay, so then you're going to have 2 days of Whole30, straight Whole30, just to clear everything out. And then you go on to the next thing, that you reintroduce. And the reason we reintroduce alcohol, legumes, non-gluten grains, dairy, and gluten is because dairy and gluten are typically the worst offenders for most people. And so that gave us a whole nother week to clear it out of your system and to clear out things that maybe aren't that big of a deal. And so, that's why we don't say reintroduce gluten on day 31, because if you have a gluten allergy, you're going to be feeling miserable and you're going to be like, screw this, and not want to do the rest of the reintroduction, or at least I would be. All right, so the next one that we're going to reintroduce is non-gluten grains. And I have, if they haven't started already, I scheduled some posts that it's an actual, just a template of where it says meal 1, meal 2, meal 3. And it gives you some examples just to show you how to do it. So we've got a ton of information on reintroduction. So if you're confused about something, ask, because we don't know how to help you if we don't know what's confusing you. Non-gluten grains. So that could be oatmeal. Make sure your oatmeal is gluten-free, but typically it's processed on grain belts. So you want to make sure you get something. I think McCann's is. I have a list in there. And you can start going through the reintroduction course now and reading through it. You don't have to wait until we get there. It's all open, so I don't even think you have to hit complete at the bottom, but I want you to be able to go in and really read through reintroduction so you've got it hand. But back to oatmeal, you want to make sure that it is non-gluten grain if you're an oatmeal person. If you don't, if you're like me and you think oatmeal's gross, why would I reintroduce oatmeal? I just won't. You can get some gluten-free breads, but really read the ingredients because a lot of times they have sugar, things of that nature. Rice, quinoa, amaranth, millet, um, just off the top of my head, those types of things. So typically I would have somebody reintroduce rice. Maybe that's dinner. Quinoa could be like quinoa salad for lunch, and then maybe either oatmeal or gluten-free bread for breakfast. And those are pretty easy. And again, for all of these things, we typically have a list for you of what some ideas if you don't know what exactly is non-gluten grain and whatnot. And if you don't see it, ask, because Hazel and I, y'all aren't dropping out of reintroduction. You're doing reintroduction. So just ask. Let's see what else. Okay, so then after you do the non-gluten grains, you're going to have it again 2 days of Whole30 just to clear out any symptoms, just to get everything back in order. Then you're going to do dairy. Now, some people already know that they don't do well with dairy and may not want to reintroduce it. I would suggest, if that's the case, that you at least reintroduce sheep and goat dairy because it is typically not as inflammatory. And it's really nice to be able to have that out. Trader Joe's, um, Aldi, and I mean, most of the grocery stores, Manchego is sheep cheese, in case you don't know that. There's a bazillion goat cheeses now with all sorts of different. I saw goat brie the other day, and I was like, really? So when I say goat cheese, understand it goes beyond just goat cheese. A lot of people don't like the taste of that little roll of goat cheese that you get. There's other things out there. So if you don't want to reintroduce cow dairy, I would say reintroduce sheep and goat dairy on that day. And or the other thing you can do is you could do sheep and goat dairy on one day, and then you could do 2 days of Whole30. And then if you wanted to stretch out dairy, if you know you have a problem with dairy, I highly suggest you do this. Then you could reintroduce dairy again in the form of hard cheeses. Cow cheese, but hard cheeses like Parmesan. There's whatever. It's not coming to me right now. But you could do that and see how that goes. And, that may or may not be a good one for you. Do 2 more days of Whole30, and then you can try soft cheeses. Because likely, what I've seen is some people can do hard cheeses and can't do soft, or vice versa. A lot of people just can't do cow at all, but yet they can do the sheep and goat. So we want you to have as many opportunities to eat cheese and dairy as possible, because we want we want you to be able to eat the bounty that is around the grocery store. So we don't want you to just say, well, I can't do dairy. Well, let's find out, can you really not do any dairy, or can you do hard cheeses? Can you do soft cheeses? Can you do alternative cheeses? So that right there could stretch out another week. Um, if you want to go down that rabbit hole. But I suggest, if you think you have an issue with dairy, I suggest doing that. And then after you do that last experiment, you do 2 days of Whole30, and then we do the gluten. And everybody knows what's gluten. It's bread, it's pasta, it's orzo, it's all the fun things. Do not do it in the form of pizza though. Okay, so back to the template. Have your Whole30 meal and have a piece of toast. Lunch, have your Whole30 salad and maybe throw some noodles in it. And then for dinner, knock yourself out and have some pasta. Make like a Whole30 dish that would be really good with pasta. We've all made it while we're doing Whole30. Like, I love this tomato and basil, but it would really taste good with pasta. Oh, and also when we're talking pasta, for for the non-gluten or for the legumes, you could probably do, you're going to have to read. I haven't read the back of one in a while, but you could do the lentil pastas, the bonzas and whatnot. So you might want to take a look at that. But while it all sounds confusing, it's really not. All it is Whole30 with a side dish of whatever that day is. And don't make it more complicated than that. It is a Whole30 day with some side dishes, and that's it. And like we say, can you do recipes? You can do recipes, absolutely. Or can you just put some meat and veggies and fat on your plate? Yeah, you can do that too. So just dumb it down and don't get real excited about it. Be excited that you get to eat something that you really love and haven't had for 30 days. And then you find out if there's repercussions, and hopefully there's not. All right, what did I miss? What did I forget?
I think that was it.
Look at you, have notes. You're really prepared. I love it.
Oh, I'm taking notes. And then I have my calendar here and everything. I know.
Yay.
So I had thought that we were doing it as a group, and I understand doing it together, because I thought if we're not doing alcohol, that I would put that at the end to keep up with everybody doing legumes. But you're saying just individualize.
I always like it when we do it as a group. It's a little bit easier for everybody, but that said, there's always a couple that don't want to do it that way. So if we're going to do it as a group, like you said, if you want to do alcohol, absolutely you can put it at the end.
Okay.
I think my main point was we want to personalize it for you, with the dairy or for everyone. I mean, but yeah, if you're not going to do alcohol, then you can go right into legumes if you want. You can wait 2 more days if you're feeling like I really don't want to jump right into Whole30. You can wait 2 or the 3 more days. But the reason we opened up the reintroduction the way we did was so that if people are doing something different, what we would really like is make sure we know what your plan is, and we'll be asking you to tell us what your plan is, and just keep talking to us about what you're doing. Don't miss the 2 days in between, because those are important. Those are important to clear things out. And obviously if you're like it needs to go non-gluten grain, or it needs to go legumes, non-gluten grains, dairy, gluten. Alcohol, alcohol's just alcohol. It kind of floats around wherever you want. They basically put it in front because, probably, to be honest, when this all started, Melissa was in the 30-year-old mommy culture, the mommy wine culture, which don't get me started. And a lot of people want their wine right away. So that's, and wine and alcohol is insidious. It's a fun thing to have, but it's not good for you in any form or fashion. And I would bet if they redid it they wouldn't even reintroduce alcohol, because they'd probably tell you don't even have alcohol, because all the studies, I mean, I know they keep trying to talk about wine and resveratrol, but all Christy and I, will look at our Aura rings when we drink, and it's not a good thing. It screws up your sleep. So now you wake up and you might think you're rested, but now you're having all these cravings and you're wondering why. Well, it was probably that wine. Or you have the wine and it puts you to sleep right away, but you just don't have a well-rested sleep. So I should get off my soapbox on that. I know people that love their wine.
I appreciate your points, especially on the fact that we could, like you talked about the correct order of things, like doing the gluten last because of the side effects. It's good to know that we could do alcohol later if we choose to.
Yeah.
The group is doing everything on legumes. I don't mind moving that to the end, because it doesn't seem to have such a big impact on the order of things that you've got. So that's good.
Yeah. And like, say for instance, you did the legumes and you did the non-gluten grains, and say you decide you want to do dairy, like in 3 different things. You could do the sheep and goat dairy first, then move on to gluten, and then go and do the dairy, the additional, the hard cheeses and the soft cheeses afterwards. That would be okay. So, but you kind of want to, you want to push that gluten out as far as possible, because we used to say it was gluten sensitivity. Now we think it's really probably more of a GMO, or not GMO, excuse me, glyphosate sensitivity.
Okay.
Um, and there's lots of information on that. Like I do better now because I've healed my gut up a lot, but I used to not be able to do it at all, but yet I could go over to Europe and eat it and it was no problem. And that's because of the way we farm it. So, so you might be okay with gluten, you just might not be okay with US milling practices. So,
Mm,
yeah.
okay.
But
Okay.
yeah, I would say we'll probably have most everybody on. I think most everybody will be on the same day.
Yeah. And you mentioned something that I didn't think about, or wasn't aware that as I buy these products that I probably don't have in my house, like gluten free, to make sure there's no sugar in them. So
Hmm.
I thought I would pick up some bread the other day, and I'm like, okay, I won't. But you're right. I got to make sure. Are we watching things like cornstarch or things like that? We want to make it as pure as possible. And how much? Yeah.
Let me rephrase that, because technically in reintroduction you can have sugar. We don't reintroduce sugar because it's just insidious and it's in everything. Just grab some bread that's as clean as you can get it. If it has some sugar in it, that would be okay. I do caution everybody with the alcohol reintroduction, because you haven't had any sugar and then you put a whole thing of orange juice with your vodka. It's going to be tough to tell whether it's vodka or orange juice, because that's a big sugar hit. So I would say you're getting the bread or even the gluten-free bread. Make sure that sugar is somewhere down. If there's 10 ingredients, make sure it's down at least 5 or 6, so that it doesn't have a lot of sugar. Because again, you may not feel well, and is that because you haven't had any sugar for a month and your body's reacting to that? Because it does, blood sugar. So yeah, I would just say try to keep it as clean as possible. There's gonna, with bread and gluten-free stuff, they're always gonna have items in there that we haven't been having. So just try to do the best you can, I guess, would be the answer there.
Okay. And I like the other fact that you brought up is making it a side item, not
Yeah,
making it a piece because of the adaptability of us going through it. So that's a big
right.
piece because I don't
Yeah.
know if right. So that's
I,
good.
I feel like people think that they have to do new recipes now, that now they have to go get this recipe and that recipe. And again, if you're the barefoot Contessa, knock yourself out. But if you just think of it as a side dish, it takes the pressure off of it. And you know what? I mean, here's a perfect example. Are they right here? Yeah. Well, this one's got, so at Aldi, there's these 90-second, this one is, and I don't have my glasses. This is microwavable white rice.
Mm.
Okay, so I can just pick up one of those. I don't have to buy a 5-pound bag of rice because, and I mean, the ingredients probably aren't great, but you can just get one single thing. Pasta, or you can get some of that pre-made and whatnot. But yeah, I would just say, just think of it as a side or something you line your bowl with, if it's going to be pasta or rice or quinoa or something like that. So, but yeah, just you don't have to have a lot at each meal. We're just giving it we're triple dosing you during the day, so
Mm.
that, and the reason we do that is because like me with cheese, or me with dairy, I can do some dairy, I can't do a lot. So if I would have um, heavy whipping cream in my coffee, I might be fine. And then say maybe I had cheese in my salad, I might be fine. But then if I go and I have something, my quesadilla has more cheese in it, I might not feel so good the next day. Well, I actually had that happen the other day. I was like, why am I feeling all, my stomach's all, I was like, you had a lot of dairy yesterday. And I could tell, like, my stomach was a little flip-floppy and I was very nasally. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's why. I know that now. Before doing an elimination diet, I would have thought that something was blooming outside. but now I know it's my body trying to tell me, hey, you need to chill out on that. So, but yeah, just side dish. But by doing it 3 times in the day, you're getting microdosed. So if you're going to have a reaction, likely, it'll be that next day because you've had it 3 times.
Okay. Okay.
So there you go.
No, I think that's excellent so far. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah. And everybody's really scared. I'm like, don't worry, we'll hold your hand. It's just, and you know what? Say you have a day where you're like, I forgot to get whatever. We've got more days. You can just do it the next day. But you want to make, what I don't want people to do is say, okay, well, it's non-gluten grain. I had some toast with breakfast. Okay, what'd you have for lunch and dinner? Well, I didn't. Well, then that's not going to get you, that's not going to get you where you need to be. You've got to do it 3 times in a row that day to see if there's going to be a reaction. So yeah, that's how that goes. Okay. Anything else? I'll be all up in your business this week. So
that's okay. Appreciate you guys being there. And you being there. One thing I don't know if you've mentioned it or I've seen it somewhere, and it's not, I don't think necessarily related to reintroduction, but you could, just feed us it or redirect me back to it. Was something about that some of our food is getting not just GMO, but bioengineering labels on it, like more and more. And I haven't, we're reading labels, and
right.
if you could address that at some point, or I don't know if you've already have, but it's like, why are we seeing more and more of this? So
yeah, well, because and depending on I'm not even going to say that. I keep reading about, so they're trying, and this is not all things, but I saw this interesting article the other day, and because of climate change, they are trying to engineer plants to be able to deal with extreme heat. So say you've got your tomato, they're trying to engineer the tomato so that it can withstand heat. So in one sense, it's kind of good because they're being proactive, but in the other sense, it's like, what are we really eating? So what I will get you, they have, where's my husband? I'm at my husband's desk.
Some of the products I thought I saw it was like a baking soda. Like, why would you be bioengineering baking soda?
So I hadn't heard that one, but yeah.
Salad dressings, they're putting it on more like processed foods. And I understand like the farming, right? And that even concerns us, with the wheat, and we've gone through that, but I think they're doing more and more. But I think, and if I find one product with it, I definitely will share it.
Yeah, let us know.
I thought it was, someone pointed it out, it was like baking soda. Like, why would you be bioengineering this stuff? And I'm sure we are probably doing it further than, maybe people in Europe are over across seas. And maybe they don't even see that happening. And I was just wondering, how prolific is this? Like, what is happening?
So, yeah, I don't know. I'll get a list of labels out there, because like if you pick up again the tomato and it's got a label and it says 4011, that means it's conventionally raised. And so it's a whole number system. So I'll make sure to put that one out.
Okay.
And I think I'll probably put that in the at-large community. Just so we have it and we can find it and it's not necessarily stuck in the course where nobody else can see it. But yeah, that's a good thing to have. It's, there's a million rabbit holes you can go down with food, and the answer is always with everything, follow the money.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, with the climate crisis, management of that, I mean, it's kind of a good thing because we're going to need that. But at the same time, it's kind of like AI. It's super exciting because, oh my God, all the things we can do, and then I'm watching it on TV and the guy that built the AI thing was like, yeah, this is going to go horribly wrong. And you're like, oh, well, that's comforting. So, it's a double-edged sword, of course. So it kind of just depends, but.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, thanks for coming, and I will get this recording up just as soon as Zoom sends it back to me so everybody has it. And do not be afraid and ask all your questions. Have a Have a good night. Thanks for popping
Thank,
in.
thank
All
you.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.